The View hosts have got themselves into hot water again after they did the very thing they purport to be against, undermining women's success. Joy Behar stunned viewers when she said Donald Trump's press secretary, 27-year-old Karoline Leavitt, only secured her position because of her good looks.
I think she's probably been put in there because, according to Donald Trump, she's a 10. You know that's what it is.
I want to be clear, though. It's not her first job. It was her first press briefing. She worked in the previous Trump administration.
The comment was bizarre, especially coming from Joy Behar, who is as woke as they come and positions herself as a champion of feminism. This online commentator said, disgusting Joy Behar of The View accuses Karoline Leavitt of being hired only because Donald Trump thought she was a 10.
Let's talk about the fact that Democrats have been labeling President Trump a to democracy for the better half of 10 years. Let's talk about how they have compared him to one of the worst mass in the history of the world, and that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden weaponized the court system and the justice system in this country against Donald Trump in an attempt to imprison him. He sat through a courthouse for 7 weeks this past year, and the Democrats were hoping he would go to jail for it. That is real political that has led to 2 heinous attempts on President Trump's life that, by the grace of God, he was able to escape, and he is here with us today. So yes, President Trump knows a little bit about political because he's experienced it himself. And talking about the tragic realities of war that Liz Cheney and her father, Dick Cheney, have got this country into is not political.
Karoline Leavitt walked into the discussion expecting a political debate, but Joy Behar wasted no time in making it personal. She dismissed Karoline's success, reducing it to just her looks. What followed was intense. Leavitt didn't just respond. She exposed the double standards of a show that claims to support women but tears them down when they have different views. Now, ABC is in full crisis mode. Insiders are pointing fingers, and even Joy Behar's future on the show could be at risk. What exactly did Leavitt say that turned the situation upside down and left The View in chaos? Let's break it down. This latest drama on The View has sparked yet another controversy, proving what happens when the hosts underestimate their guests. This time, conservative political strategist Karoline Leavitt was in the hot seat. Known for her bold approach and growing media presence, she became the target of a sharp remark from Joy Behar. Behar smugly suggested that Leavitt's success was not due to her skills, but just her appearance, a comment that clearly crossed the line. But Leavitt wasn't about to ignore it. Instead of letting it slide, she stayed calm and sharp, completely breaking down Behar's argument. She exposed the hypocrisy of a show that claims to empower women, but actually does the opposite when those women don't agree with them.
Let's talk about the fact that Democrats have been labeling President Trump a to democracy for the better half of 10 years. Let's talk about how they have compared him to one of the worst mass in the history of the world, and that Kamala Harris and Joe Biden weaponized the court system and the justice system in this country against Donald Trump in an attempt to imprison him. He sat through a courthouse for 7 weeks this past year, and the Democrats were hoping he would go to jail for it. That is real political that has led to 2 heinous attempts on President Trump's life that, by the grace of God, he was able to escape, and he is here with us today. So yes, President Trump knows a little bit about political because he's experienced it himself. And talking about the tragic realities of war that Liz Cheney and her father, Dick Cheney, have got this country into is not political. It's talking about the reality of the foreign conflicts that the Washington, D.C. establishment have sold out young Americans to for decades.
Yet, of course, after those attempted attempts on the former president's life, his opponents reached out to him and said they do not accept political. That has been a key difference. I do want to play you.
No, please. His opponents are saying to this very day the same rhetoric that led to those 2 attempts. The second attempted on President Trump's life echoed the sentiment that President Trump is a democracy. And if you're a deranged lunatic and you're mentally ill, you will believe that lie, and yes, you will take political like we have seen in 2 instances against President Trump. Last week, Tim Walz and Kamala Harris said that everyone who showed up to President Trump's rally at Madison Square Garden was an That's despicable, dangerous, divisive rhetoric that is spewed by the Democrat Party every single day. And I am so sick and tired of the media pointing the finger at Donald Trump and saying that he is sowing division in this country. He is not. The media is for pushing hoaxes like the one that you all pushed today, and the Democrat Party is for pushing lies about him. But the good news is Americans don't buy it. And that's why today in 2024, President Trump is more popular than he has been since 2016, because people don't trust the media and they're not buying the Harris campaign's closing argument that he's some great to our democracy, because they lived under him for 4 years as president, and our democracy and our country was stronger than it is today.
Karoline Leavitt didn't step back when faced with The View's usual dismissive and patronizing tone. Instead of hesitating, she did what many before her couldn't. She stood her ground with confidence, facts, and a composed attitude. She didn't let Joy Bahar's comment go unchecked. Leavitt made it clear that her success wasn't about appearance, but rather years of dedication, political knowledge, and strong communication skills. These are the very qualities that make her a real challenge to a panel that often lives in its own bubble of so-called intellectual superiority. She pointed out how absurd it is to reduce a woman's success to just her looks, especially coming from a show that constantly claims to support women's empowerment. This contradiction was impossible to ignore. While The View claims to uplift women, the moment a woman doesn't fit their left-leaning ideology, she becomes the target of the same belittling behavior they claim to fight against. And this wasn't an isolated case, it's a repeated pattern, a calculated move to discredit conservative women by portraying them as either unqualified or shallow. Whether it's figures like Kayleigh McEnany, Sarah Huckabee Sanders, or Elise Stefanik, the strategy remains the same. Downplay their achievements and turn them into stereotypes. But this time, it completely backfired.
She said something yesterday that really pissed me off. And that was, she said, there will be no wokeness here.
Oh, yeah.
Let me explain something to you. Because without that wokeness, you might not have that job.
Yeah.
Because women were not invited to that table. Mm-hmm. Women were not invited to many tables in this nation. The reason we fought and busted our behinds to make sure that you didn't have to worry about this. And now to hear you talk about it, and to hear anybody talk about the wokeness was put in place for a reason. Because black people couldn't get into colleges. Because women could not get into the colleges they wanted to go to. This is all women. Yeah. See, this is not black, Asian women. This is all women. Women were not invited to this party. It was a man's world, and we busted our asses to make sure that this was a person's world. So please stop using that phrase and talk about, because you don't understand what you're saying. Mm-hmm. You're saying about yourself that, you know, hey, that's a terrible thing to be. It's not a terrible thing to be. That's why we fought. That's what we were fighting for, so that you could stand in that podium, so that Catherine Jean-Pierre could stand at that podium. So women of all kinds of colors and ilks, wherever they came from, whatever their belief system was, they had the opportunity to bust down that.
The View pulled its usual trick, a lazy, sexist insult aimed at shutting down a strong conservative voice. But this time, it didn't work. Karoline Leavitt didn't just ignore the attack, she tore it apart piece by piece. She left no doubt that her success came from talent and hard work, not just luck or privilege. But she didn't stop there. She pointed out the clear difference between her work in shaping real political discussions and The View's tendency to focus on gossip and one-sided debates. She called out their echo chamber and showed how they use women's empowerment as a mask while tearing down those who think differently. The reaction was instant. Social media exploded with support for Leavitt, and the backlash against The View was stronger than ever. People weren't just upset, they were tired of the hypocrisy. This moment forced viewers to rethink The View's credibility and its treatment of women in politics. The show claims to support strong, independent women, but only if they fit into its ideological box. The moment someone like Leavitt steps outside that box, she's reduced to stereotypes, her achievements ignored, and she's treated as if she doesn't deserve recognition. But here's where it all went wrong for them. Their attempt to insult Leavitt didn't just fail, it completely backfired. Joy Bahar's snide remark wasn't just mean-spirited, it revealed an insecurity among the panelists. They couldn't challenge Leavitt with facts, so they went after her personally. Instead of having a real debate, they focused on her appearance, a desperate move. It was pure projection. Instead of admitting that Leavitt's success was based on skill and intelligence, The View twisted the narrative to fit their fragile worldview. Now, even ABC insiders admit they didn't expect such a backlash. This controversy hasn't just hurt the show's reputation. It has put a spotlight on its blatant double standards. Behind the scenes, ABC executives were already frustrated with The View's constant issues, and this latest drama only made things worse. One insider even hinted that higher-ups are questioning whether Joy Behar, who has been on the show for years, is doing more harm than good. While The View has always thrived on controversy, there's a fine line between being thought-provoking and being outright problematic, and this time they crossed it. The network couldn't ignore the fallout any longer. What really sealed the deal was how Karoline Leavitt handled the situation. She didn't complain. She didn't play the victim. Instead, she used this moment to turn the tables, proving that she could stand her ground. What could have been an embarrassing moment for her turned into an opportunity to showcase her strength and expose The View's true nature. Want to know what happens next? Stay tuned for more updates, inside scoops, and real political discussions. Only here. Don't miss out.